Hey everyone, it's me, your favorite mystical person here on the internet, back with another astrology video. Welcome if you're new, and if you're subscribed and not new, welcome back. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like this video, because in today's video we're talking about the importance of the fourth house in synastry. Yes, the fourth house. And a lot of astrologers don't talk about the fourth house in synastry. Usually you hear about the fifth house or the seventh house, but I've found in my personal readings and even in my personal life that the fourth house is a very key component in deep soul connection in synastry. I feel like the fourth house tends to get overlooked because it's not known to be a romantic house like the fifth or the seventh house, but it's very important. The fourth house in astrology tends to be known as the house where you find on the surface things linked to your home life and your family relationships, but it's also a house that has a very deep aspect to it where it links to spiritual family, bloodlines, and your ancestors. The fourth house is important in synastry because it reveals and helps you understand your hidden blockages in your relationships. You know, I feel like people often underestimate the power of their ancestors. And this is because our ancestors operate in the background of our lives. Typically, your ancestors won't interfere in your life unless it's like a dire emergency or you give them permission to do so, which is why we tend to overlook the favor of our ancestors in personal decisions that we make, especially in our relationships. And they play a key part because you have to think your ancestry is like a whole energy map of your family lineage. Your ancestors are very particular about who comes in the lineage and who is worthy of getting the blessing of your ancestors, to where then they will allow you to continue the bloodline with this person that you're in a relationship with. Your ancestors do have a say in this, and it may not seem like it on the surface because you just feel like you're getting into the relationship and it's fine, but really behind the scenes you're wondering why is there like a disconnect, or things are not flowing, or you just have all these underlying issues with your partner. That's because your ancestors are trying to indicate to you like there's an issue there, and that they're not too fond of the person that you're with because they clash with the lineage. Your ancestors don't deem them worthy to merge into the family lineage. And I know we live in a very progressive world to where modernism supersedes the spiritual, especially when it comes to modern day dating. I feel like a lot of people in this day and age, they approach relationships in a very surface level way, and they tend to get into relationships for very materialistic things. And this becomes very conflicting because as the relationship deepens, you start to unlock the spiritual sides of that relationship. For people who especially go into relationships for surface level things, they're going to find themselves in a lot of problems, because when you're not in tune with your ancestors, you're not aligned with them, you're not following through on their guidance for you and what's best aligned for you and the rest of the bloodline, this is where you're going to find yourself in a lot of problems, because you have to understand it goes very deep when it comes to ancestry. You have to think of wars, racism, slavery. All of these things still are very much so embedded in all of us spiritually. Our ancestral wounds get passed down from generation to generation. So it's not something that our ancestors forget. So you have to understand that person, that guy or that girl that you're getting with, and they may be of a different culture or whatever the case may be, you have to consider sometimes your ancestors may not have had a good relationship with that other culture that your partner is. Okay. And I know a lot of people may not like to hear that. And a lot of people may think that wouldn't matter when it comes to the spiritual, but no, this matters. It does all matter. All of that matters because your ancestors remember. Okay. Your ancestors are very much so still connected to your culture and the traditions. Okay. So You have to consider that. So while you may like somebody on the surface, bonding with them spiritually, that is when your ancestors activate. And this is when your ancestors ordain or not your relationship with this person. And the reason why is because the fourth house comes before the fifth house. The fourth house highlights the family lineage that you come from. Then the fifth house is the house of children, pregnancy, the descendants. Depending on what's happening in your fourth house, that'll determine the fifth house. You can't have the fifth house without the fourth house. And this is what I mean. People tend to skip over the fourth house and then go to the fifth house, and then they wonder why they have all these issues with their children. When it comes to vetting your relationships, it's even deeper than just looking at like their background, like their criminal history and all these things that are very important, but it's also important to look into their ancestry as well to see if your ancestors and their ancestors link up and they have a good relationship, especially if you're somebody that dates interracially. And this is why in certain cultures they still follow the tradition of arranged marriage, because they are preserving the bloodline. That is how families preserve their bloodline. They're very particular about who merges in the bloodline, and it goes from generation to generation. And they're particular about this because typically when you get into a relationship, that's when you think about having kids with that person. Through your kids, that's how you continue the bloodline. So this is why the fourth house is so important, because you don't want to be creating bad karma for yourself, and you definitely don't want to be creating bad karma for your kids either. The fourth house is the house of your ancestor spirit, okay? So your ancestors are always looking to personify themselves in some way, shape, or form to continue their mission, continue where they left off, or experience something that they didn't get to experience during the time that they were alive, okay? So they often try to personify themselves in the descendant's body, your child's body. This is why you could have a child and it reminds you of your great 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 grandfather, or you could have a daughter, it could remind you of like your great grandmother, whatever the case may be. And you could find that they have a lot of similarities. Why? Because most likely your ancestor spirit personified through your child, okay? So it goes very deep, you guys. And fourth house synastry is definitely slept on, and I feel like it should be talked about more because this is key. This is key to have successful families and marriages. And even if you don't get married, long-term relationships, whatever the case may be. The fourth house is a cardinal house. It's the house of initiation, starting something new. So while yes, you may start a new piece of the family tree through the fourth house, but the fourth house is also where you get that blessing or not from your ancestors to add on to that tree with whoever you're in a relationship with. These traditions don't disappear in your ancestral line. These things still influence your lineage to this day. Okay, so it's very important to really look into your ancestry, especially if you're somebody that's getting back in the dating world and you just want to have a successful relationship and you don't want to create a relationship that has a whole bunch of blockages. You have to tap in with your ancestors. You have to. Your ancestors will tell you who they want or who they do not want in their family line. Okay, because your ancestors are your frontline elders, your frontline leaders, okay? They're your predecessors. Your first ancestors are like the rulers over your family tree. So they get a say-so of who and who does not come in the family line. And I'm gonna use myself as an example real quick. There was one guy where his son fell in my fourth house, and I found with him that we just had a very good connection. You know, the son brings positivity, it brings light, it brings warmth. I kind of see sun fourth house synastry as like your ancestors are giving you the green light. Your ancestors are giving you that okay. Looking into my sun fourth house synastry with this person, that was telling me that my ancestors were giving me the okay, they were giving me that green light, and they were very happy about this union. Why? Because we were talking to each other for a very long time, and I even found myself talking about kids and marriage with this person. Mind you, I don't want kids, okay? And I don't care to be married or any of that, but I found myself with this person talking about these things, and to the point that we were intimate just by the flow of everything is what I noticed. Like, there wasn't any blockage. And not only that, our ancestors had a very positive relationship because I'm Haitian and he is Venezuelan. Going back to their history, especially Haiti's history, Haiti during the revolution, they were the fire starters of the revolution, and then that led to them helping South America become independent as well. And not only that, Haiti did also provide Venezuela troops to help gain their independence as well in their own revolution. And that makes sense of why his son fell in my fourth house, and this created like a very positive soul connection because my ancestors remember his ancestors. Okay, there's like a familiarity there. And it was like that between me and him because when I met him, it was just like easy. It was like magic, like literally. So it's like my ancestors approve, like, oh yes, our ancestors, they have like a really good relationship. And of course, there were other things in our chart that didn't allow us to fully have a successful relationship. But I will say, intuitively, it just felt right with him, you know, to be intimate with him, to let him in into like my personal life and my personal secrets, especially because I'm a very private person. In synastry, the planets that someone places in your fourth house will determine whether your ancestors support the connection or where your ancestors are low-key blocking the relationship. The fourth house is a spiritual house, so this house is where spirits are looking for someone to continue to live through, to continue their mission. Okay, like I was saying earlier, your ancestors are always looking to personify itself so they can continue the work of the lineage, to help progress it, to continue to expand it, and that often manifests through your children. So that's why it's important to be very mindful of who you're partnering with and who you're procreating with. Sometimes you could block the lineage from expanding. Sometimes you could curse the lineage. You could just cause a lot of conflict if you're not mindfully partnering with the right person. And that's why I can't stress enough, work with your fourth house. And I actually made an Instagram post on how to connect with your ancestors through your fourth house. So follow me on Instagram to go check out that post. It's very helpful. You have to understand our ancestors' mortality rate in their time wasn't high like it is now for us because they were living in harsher living conditions and they didn't have the same technological advancements in medicine as we do now to keep them alive longer. So their lives were often cut short, okay? And this didn't allow them to complete a lot of their missions that they set out to do for themselves. So they look to continue these missions through the descendants, the fifth house. So if you've ever felt this invisible wall in your love life or with a particular person that you're with right now, it's most likely because of your fourth house story. And I could help you look deeper into it and help you decode it with my synastry readings on my website. Check out my website, cosmiccode.net. This reading will help you understand the purpose, challenges, and strengths of your relationship, and it'll also help you fix blockages that you may have in partnerships. So definitely go check out my website, and yeah, that is all I have for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this insightful and helpful. Please leave your comments down below. I want to hear your thoughts. Like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and please again check out my website, cosmiccode.net, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.